Hi guys, my name's Christine. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. It is hands down my favorite book that I read last year. It's it's definitely on my top 5 of all time now. I can't. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Number 1, trigger warnings. If you need trigger warnings, the trigger warnings for this book are all of them. Every single one. Anything that you can imagine that might cause you pause to read it, it's going to be in here. So just take that advice as you need it. The story centers on 4 friends who live together in university. They moved to New York. One is JB, he's an artist. There's Malcolm, who is an architect. There is Willem, who is an actor. And then there's Jude, who's a lawyer. And you've got these 4 friendships over, I think it's about 30, 40 years, something like that. It's a long time period. But the really interesting thing about the book is that there's absolutely nothing to tell you when it takes place. They live in New York, but there's never any mention of 9/11. There's no mention of any kind of discernible technology. You've got things like birthdays and Christmas and Thanksgiving to demark the passage of time, but there's nothing in it that would say it takes place at this particular period of time, which I think is really great because that means that it is going to be, it doesn't matter when you read it. Like if you read it today, if you read it 20 years from now, it really doesn't matter. Because there is a lack of telling you when things are taking place, it's got all the earmarks of a modern classic. You'll be able to read it anytime. I didn't realize that it was actually from, I think 2016 it was originally published. I thought it was like within the last year or so. But no, it's been around for almost 10 years at this point, and I had no idea. I know a lot of people, I feel like this is one of those books, you either love it or you hate it. There's definitely going to be people out there who will not like it because of the subject matter. The main character is Jude St. Francis. He goes through everything a person can go through. And I think the point that Hanya Yanagihara is trying to make with that character is that so often in literature and in storytelling just in general, there's this need to wrap things up and make the person well again, or at least get them to get to a certain point where they're trying to get better, or they're trying to improve things, or things are wrapped up with a neat bow. And this book just, it's not that. And I really appreciate that because that is life, you know? One of the quotes from the book, and there's going to be a few in this video, that I love, what he knew from books, and books lied. They made things prettier. I think that is such an interesting idea that I think you have to have all these terrible things, and as bad as it is, happen to Jude in order to be able to relate to his frame of mind. When somebody finally does try to be nice to him, he just thinks he's an awful person. He thinks none of it he's worthy of any kind of love whatsoever. I'm not sure where it is in the book, but there's a scene where Harold is making him eat dinner, basically. And it says, and he cries and cries for everything he has been, for everything he might have been, for every old hurt, for every old happiness, cries for the shame and joy of finally getting to be a child with all of a child's whims and wants and insecurities, for the privilege of behaving badly and being forgiven, for the luxury of tenderness, of fondness, of being served a meal and being made to eat it, for the ability at last, of believing a parent's reassurances, of believing that to someone he is special despite all his mistakes and hatefulness, because of all his mistakes and hatefulness. And I think that's really important, that you are made to suffer with Jude through everything that happens to him so that you can understand why he just can't believe it. And I think that's a really, I hate to use the word brave, it sounds kind of cliche, but I think that is a brave standpoint in writing this character as being unsafable, because it would be so easy to be like, well, and then he got therapy and everything was fine and everybody was happy. The end, and that's not this book at all. So, but I do like that unflinching view of that character, and it wears you down as a reader, but it is for a purpose. Like it's not just, some people call it, torture porn or trauma porn. I don't agree with that at all. I get where they're coming from, and as I said, this book is not going to be for everybody, but I don't agree with that because I just think like the writing in it is so beautiful and so moving, and you love this character and you just want the best for him and you want him to be able to move past it, and he can't. And that, I think, is more true to life than a lot of books would have the guts to be. I think ultimately the book is about friendship and love, and the way that some people come and go from your life over time. I think, there's 4 main characters at the beginning. By the end of the book, there's really 2. Like, a couple of the characters kind of fade a bit from the spotlight, and that's okay because Jude is the main character for sure. And these other characters come and go into his life, and that's life. That is how things work in the real world. Who here could say that they're still friends with the friends that they were in college with or when they were 20? Like, it doesn't happen that way. Life gets in the way. Things happen. Friendships come and go. And another quote is, "You won't understand what I mean now, but someday you will. The only trick of friendship, I think, is to find people who are better than you are. Not smarter, not cooler, but kinder and more generous and more forgiving. And then to appreciate them for what they can teach you, and to try to listen to them when they tell you something about yourself, no matter how bad or good it might be, and to trust them, which is the hardest thing of all, but the best as well." I love that. There's so many quotes in this book. I could sit here for an hour and quote passage after passage. This is one of the very few books that I have ever read that's made me cry. I'm not a crier when it comes to books. Like, when you're watching a movie, there's music and there's things manipulating your emotions. But when it's a book, it's just you and the page. It's very hard to get me to cry. There's a handful of books that have done it. This is one of them, and it was more than once. It's a lot. That's a lot. Particularly, I'm not going to give anything away, but there is a speech in it that if you have read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's the "Who am I, who are you" speech. And by the end of that, I was just in tears in my bed, just like, oh my God. It's so good. I love this book. I can't say enough great things about it. The writing is amazing. The characters are amazing. The story it's hard, but it's important, I think. So yeah, it's A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I will say I don't love this cover. It's not the worst. It's fine. It certainly conveys the book. But there is another cover that I wish I could have got my hands on that one instead, but nonetheless. So yeah, Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I love, love, love this book.